everybody, and welcome to day 34 of the countdown to Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary. I thank everybody for watching so far. Today's going to be a long one. It's going to be a great one because I got 12 dozen eggs. Who knows? But today, Magic Kingdom, Gaston's Tavern. We're making the cinnamon roll. Gaston's cinnamon roll. As big as my head. Quick story about the first time I ever had this. It was so many years ago. And my daughter was young. She was online meeting Gaston. And it was so hot. And I had to get out of the sun. And I went into Gaston's Tavern while it was a family trip. My parents were actually there. My parents, my wife, and my daughter waited online to meet Gaston. I was sitting in the air conditioning eating a big, large Gaston cinnamon roll. Well, today, we're making it together. Let's go. All right, to start, you're gonna add 1 stick of butter and a half a cup of milk. And you just wanna get that in there and start that to melt, because you actually need this to melt and combine, and then we need to cool it. We're gonna cool that, and that's gonna get added to our dough. Okay, so that's melted, and it's now it's cooling down. To the bowl, we're going to add 2.5 cups of flour, and just make sure you measure this out. So that's 1 cup, and here's the 2nd cup, and a half. Okay, and to that, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sugar. And I'm also going to use 1 tablespoon of quick rise yeast. Now the quick rise yeast, you don't have to bloom. You don't have to add it to the water. It'll just mix in with all the ingredients in here. Speaking of water, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of water. And 1 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to give that a mix, just to incorporate everything in there. And you can see it'll start to form a dough already. At this point, I'm going to add in 2 eggs. I'm slowly going to be adding in that butter and milk mixture. Just a little at a time. Make sure it's cool enough. If it's not cool enough, you could always add the water to it, which would bring down the temperature actually. It's all going in the same place. The whole key with this, folks, is you don't want to be cooking the eggs. That's why they say to cool it down. Here's another little trick. We're going to have to be adding a total of 6 cups of sugar. Total of 6 cups of flour. So at this point you can add a little more flour to it to get it thicker. And also it'll incorporate those eggs so that you can go in and add this at a more rapid pace. This is where I'm going to put it onto my stand mixer, and I'm going to continue to add 1/2 cup of flour till we get to a total of 6 cups of flour, 1/2 cup of flour at a time until we come to a total of 6 cups of flour. Alright, so at this point I'm going to switch over to the dough hook. Everything's starting to come together nice, and I have about 1 cup of flour left. So the dough's formed with the dough hook. Just lightly flour your bowl, and you're just gonna roll that dough into the flour. Let's get it a nice coat. It should be thick and tough. And you're just gonna let this rest for 10 minutes. And we'll come right back. While this is happening, we'll do something else. All right, so the dough's gonna sit for about 10 minutes. At this point, you're gonna take equivalent to 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks. All right, room temperature. 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. I know it might sound like a lot, but it's a cinnamon roll. And I like to give it a mix and just chop up the butter at this point. I'll show you why. So the butter and the cinnamon are going to really incorporate well. And then I have 2 cups of light brown sugar. And this becomes the filling. And all you do is keep mixing this and praying that everything gets incorporated. No, it'll all become one. And I'll show you in a second. And there you go. So now you have the cinnamon. This is your filling. This is going to be your filling for that cinnamon roll. All right, let's go see how our dough's doing. All right, so we have our dough. Let's get that right there. It's nice and it's pliable now. Just push it down. And a little flour across the top. Won't hurt. And remember, whenever you work dough, from the center out. So I'm going to roll this out and then I'll show you how to fill it. Alright, the dough is nice, flat, even everywhere. I'm going to start with laying out the filling. Be generous with this because you got to spread it evenly throughout the whole spot. So let's start with that. Nice and smooth. Alright, so once everything is nice and smooth and evened out, we're going to start to roll. It's probably the hardest part of this whole recipe is the rolling. But we'll see how it goes. Alright, so it's going to add a little bit of flour, just a touch on my hands. Don't think I need it, but I do know that the first roll is always the most important. So let's start here and go as tight as we can. Because you got to remember, the center of that cinnamon roll is actually this piece here. So if we get this nice and tight, we should be okay. Here we go. Trying to keep those edges even. Not that it's a necessary part, but woohoo! We did that, folks. Here we go. All right, let me grab a pan and let's see what we're gonna. All right, so I have a Pyrex dish. I just spray. You could spray it. I just hit it with avocado oil. So you want to start. I guess I would say here is the middle. So let's just cut down straight, and let's make this one about that big. Oh, that looks nice. Oh, that's big. Got the other one here. hopefully they stay. And then we got all these little guys. I'm just gonna cut them into normal size. Alright, so a quarter stick of butter, and you just pour the butter over the top of each one. And then you have to let this sit for about 10 minutes. It's actually gonna rise again. I don't know how much bigger it can get, but that's what it says to do. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so they've rested for 20 minutes, and now at 375, they're gonna go into the oven. And all right, so now we're gonna let that bake at 375 for 20 minutes, and then after the 20 minutes, we're gonna cover it with aluminum foil and cook it an additional 10 minutes. Let's make the icing. All right, so now for the icing. The icing is low fat. So you got 8 ounces of cream cheese and a quarter stick of butter. Just gonna add to a saucepan, and you're gonna let these melt and come together. Okay, so about 3 minutes and your butter and cream cheese has come together. At this point I'm gonna add the vanilla. And that's 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Let's get that incorporated. And then you're going to start adding in your confectionery sugar. And just add a little bit to get it going. And we're going to loosen it up with a little bit of cream. The amount of cream that I'm using for this whole recipe though will be 3 tablespoons. So 1 tablespoon of So 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 2 cups of confectionery sugar, 8 ounces of cream cheese, quarter cup of butter, and 3 tablespoons of cream. Off the heat, and we're just gonna mix and get all of that in there. You're gonna let this sit at room temperature, and this is like the ultimate cream cheese royal fondant icing. All right, so I just took them out. They're blazing hot. They fell over in the oven, which I thought they would, but they are massive. I mean, look at that. They smell delicious. Let's get this one. This one opened up. Okay. All right, so now what does it call for? So it asks us, we have that cream cheese, confectionery sugar. I'm gonna put that on top of here. Get a little bit in here. And then the other one, I'm going to do a little different. Why? Because it's called Disney Done Differently. So I'm going to put a little bit of this and get this all in here, right? Because that's what everybody wants, is that icing. Right? Put it on while it's hot so it melts. And then, if you've been watching, I have a little caramel left over. So why not some caramel mixed in with our cinnamon? Put that right there. It actually calls for butterscotch. I'm not a butterscotch person, so I'm going with caramel. Well, let's plate them up, and let's see what these bad boys taste like. All right, so I also made these little guys. That was what was left over. But you know, Disney Done Differently, right? We're always going to do something a little different. They look pretty good. Nothing different, just same dough, just cut up some small pieces. But if you put them in a loaf pan and you put them together, check that out. So it's almost like a pull apart monkey bread, cinnamon roll, upside down guy. Let's see how this came out. Cut this guy right here. Oh, the rolls, cinnamon, perfect. Some icing on there. Look at that, nice and hot. Flaky dough. Let's go. No one's big as this cinnamon roll. Not even 12 dozen eggs. Let's see. Wow. I'm impressed. I didn't think they were going to be this good. It is exactly the way I remember it, sitting in Gaston'S Tavern as my family sweltered in the hot heat. And I sat inside. I just have one thing for that. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends, tell your friends. And for my family that might watch this one, cheers.